I will use Lalvin ICV D80, suggesting 20 to 30 grams for every 100 liters. Since I have 50-liter containers, I will add 20 grams to each one, considering 10 to 20 grams for 50 liters. This is our yeast. I will be using a yeast activator for the first time this year. People abroad activate their wine with these, not with sugar cubes like we do. It's named Dynastar. I have prepared my water, which is at 52 degrees now. When it reaches 45 degrees, I will add the nutrient that will trigger the yeast. Let me pour the water now. For 20 grams of yeast, 200 milliliters will be adequate. I will use these 3 bowls to follow separately, preparing the materials separately for each barrel. I am also using the cheapest type of scale that is essential in every home. I will add 15 grams each. I'm dissolving them in warm water. I use regular purified water. This is the first time I'm doing this method. Until now, I have always activated my yeast with sugar. I am using 20 grams of Lalvin ICV D80 for every 50 liters. Why am I choosing this yeast? It supports alcohol levels up to 16%. The liquid temperature has reached 46 degrees. I'll start from here. This will activate the yeast. Once I add the yeast, I think it will take about 15 minutes. I will add the yeast when the water temperature reaches 30-35 degrees. This way into the water. Stir well. It's good that it hasn't clumped. I see that it has now reached 45.5 degrees already. That's why I'm speeding up. At 35 degrees, I'll add the yeast as well. I'll use 20 grams of it. Right now, the temperature is specifically 36 to 37. I'm beginning to add my yeast. I won't stir the yeasts. They will slowly sink to the bottom. In a few minutes, I'll do a very light stir, just that much. "20 minutes have elapsed. I believe that the waking up the yeast with sugar cubes were more quick process. Now, I will add in a bit of wine juice at this stage. When they mix with juice, we will have reduced the shock effect. We will also have accelerated the yeast's awakening. After 20 minutes, I'll add more. My preparation has now ended. It lasted a total of 50 minutes, but it rose beautifully. It was a smooth process. All 3 of them. They all rose and fell under almost the same conditions. Now it's time to add them to the must. Meanwhile, since I won't be using this yeast until next year, I'm vacuum sealing it. Expire date is March 2025. I can keep it for another year or more with this method. I will keep this in the fridge. I use it, vacuum seal it, and store it. The temperature is currently 27.5 degrees, while my musts are probably 22 to 23 degrees. I think there shouldn't be a major shock. Meanwhile, the heating strips have started working. The goal was 25 degrees. It's already at 23 degrees. Tonight it will be 25 for sure. The temperature will increase right away. First, I will punch the cap. I will add the yeast after that. This will create some oxygen interaction as well. These are wild yeasts. Just look at how well they are functioning. I broke this cap 2 hours ago. I'm mixing the bottom nicely. The seeds usually settle at the bottom, right away. I'm adding first yeast to here. This process is done. Give a kick to fermentation is actually the key procedure in this work. First, you need to use the right yeast for the right wine. It is very important subject. According to the type of your grapes, you will create the route your wine will take. This fermentation process sets your parameters. Wrong yeast leads to poor wine. My must had a density of 27 bricks. It was at 1110 density, meaning it was 15% alcohol at least. I chose Lulvin D80 just because I expect 15 or 16% alcohol. I want to push the yeast's tolerance up to highest limits. This yeast is very suitable for the Cabernet. Waking up the yeast and closely monitoring that process, as you can see, is tricky. From now on, punching the cap process will begin. I don't expect any issues. It will stop when it reaches 25 and will no longer heat. Whenever the temperature of the must drops, it will raise it back to 25 degrees. I don't think it will ever exceed 28. Room temperature is 22. If must heat goes up, being in my third year, it never exceeded in the first 2 years. I'll use ice packs as a precaution. I hope I haven't missed any step until now. I tried to demonstrate fermentation to you in the simplest way possible. Be very careful with the formulas. Each yeast manufacturer surely provides a usage guide on their website. Always listen to the producer, not the seller. Make sure to determine how much you need to use per liter by reading their datasheet. Don't rely on memory. This is not just any bread yeast. This is wine yeast. It is specially produced for this purpose. Trust what the producer says, not the seller. We are on the first day of alcoholic fermentation. I must make this warning before I start. When working in a closed space like I do, no matter what is the amount of must, whether it's little or much, take precautions for carbon dioxide. Ventilate the space. When entering, always try to ventilate air out, especially if you're using large volumes. I work with 150 liters only. You can try the candle burning method. If the candle goes out, it means there is no oxygen left. There are people who have been poisoned and lost their lives due to carbon dioxide accumulation. I start by saying that take this issue seriously. I will begin breaking the cap on this barrel immediately. But first, I want you to listen to the sound of fermentation a bit. The yeasts are working healthily, at least I understand this from the sound. Now, the foam that will come out when we start breaking the cap will also be an indicator of this. Look, a lid has formed like stone, like concrete. This is a sign that things are going well, from my perspective. It was 11 o'clock at night when I punched the cap. You can do this 2 or 3 times in a day. In the beginning, until the fermentation density drops to 1070, do the cap punch less often, maybe twice or 3 times daily. It requires slightly less oxygen during fermentation at this stage. After the 3rd day, you can increase it to 4 times in a day. Too much is harmful. Excess oxygen can bring bad flavors, and you may not achieve the aromatic structure. Be sure to clean and disinfect your equipment before each use. It's important to prepare cleaning solutions and clean with them. The temperature has reached 28 degrees. It's moving around the limits. When I stir it, it will update, but it's not bad. This also indicates that the yeasts are still active. 28 is a good temperature. The limit is 28. At 29, the alarm rings for me. And at 30, I start adding ice packs. I've never come across that. I've never taken such precautions before, but you never know. My ambient temperature is 21.5 degrees. Humidity is steady, ranging from 70 to 80. Right now, the temperature is just right. This container has a bit more active than the rest. It's bubbling more. Letting oxygen well by mixing it good. I will make a measurement today, but it will be in the evening. I will check the sugar levels. If it drops to 1070, I will add yeast nutrient. I added the yeast at 1095 yesterday. If it goes down to 1070, I will feed the yeast. And with this tool, I bury it all the way down. We will see in a minute. This will be updated. For now, everything is fine. The smell coming to me. There's nothing wrong with the smell coming from here. If it was real 27, it would have risen very quickly. To summarize briefly, today is our 6th day. There has been a 5-day maceration process. It was a warm maceration. I tried to do it cold, but I couldn't manage the ice. In the end, I didn't lose the wine. It didn't sour at all. We crush the grapes. We set up the barrels, added PMS, and fixed them here. I didn't break the cap in the first days since there were no activities. I only made upper line of grapes wet. I added ice to chill it, and to keep the wild yeasts activating. Wild yeast could have worked even with the little PMS. As I stopped to manage the ice packs, the temperature climbed to 22 degrees on the 4th and 5th days. The wild yeast had begun to function, albeit slightly. For 3 days, the density remained at 1100. On Sunday, when I measured it, it was 1095. It decreased by 15 units, so the wild yeasts worked, and there was a very dense cap. It was a hard cap. There is no need for any additional intervention. Only due to my incorrect measurement and hasty decision, the pH confused me a bit. I measured 3.8, 3.88 because I took it from the top. However, I had not broken the cap until that time. When I began to punch the cap slightly, it fell to 360, but I had to intervene with 100 grams of tartaric acid. I was going to use 300 grams, if I had them. I wanted to lower from 3/8s to 360s. Thankfully, my package hasn't arrived. I used 100-gram package from last year. I hope to see a drop of 0.8 in theory. Right now, the pH is 360. I guess the density is 1070 or 1080. By evening, it will be 1070 for sure. The yeast is working well, and the temperature has risen to 25.5 degrees. These are my favorite temperatures. Let's hear the orchestra once more. Let's enjoy it. I expect punching caps at least next 10 days. Whole process never lasted under 20 days in previous years' experience. But this year, since I did a 5-day alcoholic fermentation pre-maceration for the first time, I think it will be 5 plus 10 days. We've already used up the 5 days. I will check it daily. I will do the next cap breaking in the evening. It's 9 in the morning now. I'll come back around 5. I already did a cap breaking this morning. I couldn't take a film for measurement at noon due to technical issues. I saw the density reached 1070. It's time to add the yeast nutrient. I have a packet of Fermentis yeast nutrient weighing 15 grams. We will make the yeasts working more lively and active. The temperature inside is 26.5 degrees. What I want is 25. This is 26.5. After I perform the cap breaking process, it drops to 25. In previous years, I always sprinkled the yeast nutrient on top in dry form. Then I would mix it. Seller recommended that, but this year I have started to pay attention to what the producer says. They suggest mixing it with must. It melts right away. If I had thrown it into the must directly, it would have been the same. Once it hits 1040 density, I will add the second batch of this. We need to add 30 grams as the dosage. I'm adding 15 grams yeast nutrient now. No more cap breaking tonight. Tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock I will punch it again. Then I will break the cap 4 times a day. When mixed, it also reached 25 degrees. I have no temperature control in the room. It has never been at 22 degrees. The yeasts are probably working slowly. I don't see 27 or 28 anymore. I am quite optimistic about this batch. Things are looking good. The color is perfect unless something goes wrong. I am looking forward to it being a dark, long-lasting, high-alcohol, exquisite wine. The 15-day is over. The hard cover stopped forming. I couldn't film the last days. I had a little illness and surgery. My wife came to break the cap 2 times a day. Yesterday I made a measurement. It was 998 density. Tonight is the final night. Today is Tuesday the 14th day. We have 4 days of maceration. The alcoholic fermentation lasted for 10 days. I think the process went well. I monitored the temperature constantly. They are still at 25 degrees right now. I am lucky that nothing went wrong while I was gone. Most likely for the last time. The final cap of this year hasn't formed somehow. It's still liquid and has a strong alcohol scent now. A little cap has formed here. Strange, it's still active. I don't think it's actively fermenting. After punching the last cap and observing tomorrow, I will start the pressing process on Thursday or Friday. A total of 3 barrels. I will transfer the 50 liters into a glass carboy. I will also transfer the rest into 20 liters glass carboy. 50 liters carboy will likely be a free run. I won't make any adjustments at all. Whatever is left, after 50 liters, I will use 20 liters only. The malolactic fermentation process will continue there. By the way, let me show you how to break the last cap. When the must finishes fermentation, it will look like this. Look. No activity here. It's really weak. Measuring density now would show 990. It should show 990, 995. If I wait 2 more days, I see 990. I did it that way last year. Last year I even managed to see 21 or 22 days by pushing it hard. The press timing was difficult. That's why I delayed the process by capping it and nearly cutting off oxygen contact. Let's check if this is solid. Yes, there's more activity here. It could finish by tomorrow. I think my press process will go on until Friday. Today is Tuesday. It disperses immediately. It's not thick at all. A thin layer has formed. Let's take a look here. Indeed. I think measuring here would show about 996. Fermentation is still ongoing. No temperature changes occurred. 28 and 29 are yet to appear. It's stable. I remember a max of 26.5. Yes, everything is as I wished. Time to press. See you on next video.